Welcome to today's video. So we're back with the Mystic Top 10. Unfortunately, I've had to record this one before the Science one has come out, and you guys have seen it. So we will be carrying on with the numbers, which you'll know what I'm talking about if you watch the Science one, because I've not got your feedback on that. All right, well, I might have done, but I've not seen it. So we're moving into the top 10 of the Mystic class, which I actually think the top 3 place themselves, but everyone else, I've got no idea. To start off with an absolute bang is the one honourable mention who maybe should have made the list, but I'm not sure. And that is Hood. The Hood is a great champ. He is a 7-star. So that makes it very tricky. Just double checking. He is a 7-star. I think that actually he's coming into the list. We're going to talk about him. You can see there a last minute change. I'll tell you who it previously was. It was previously at 10, Rintrah. Rintrah is, a lot of people, a lot say he's mess. He a lot goes on with Rintrah, but one thing you cannot deny is it's a tie for 10. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind again. It's a tie for 10. Rintrah and Hood come in together. That is just what I've decided. So we'll talk about them both. The Hood we'll start with first. In a lot of these lists previous, Hood has been 4 and 5. I think the strength of his stagger and the damage that he does with the shocks and the bullets, can't remember what it's called, so hopefully I find it. The hexes and the fate seal. So you've got all of that in combination. It just does a ton of damage to the champions who have buffs. The invisibility helps out a ton for the on the SB2. He is a very strong champ. The problem that we have now is a lot of champions are doing that, but they're doing it in an easier way. Staggers are very good if you've got lots of staggers on, but if a champion like Hulkling is gaining so many buffs, how are you able to stagger every single one? And I think because, he takes a lot of the buffs off. He does. Obviously, very good champion. But compared to, say, the Destroyer, who just shortens buff life, and, say, Kindred with the atrophy, the neutralize just on being on every hit of both Tigra and Rintrah, basically against Cosmic Champions. They stop buffs immediately, stop them before however many buffs there are, whereas, maybe a stagger's taking off one, or if they're gaining, buffs 1 second after the other, are you able to get lots of staggers on? Now, that's not anything wrong with stagger, it's just wrong with the Hood, and I think he's a very strong champion. I do think he does a lot of big damage, but at the moment he comes in at 10. I might be wrong. Again, the Hood is someone I've not played too much. I've seen people take big fights with him, but as a defender he offers nothing, really. He doesn't offer anything, so he's purely an attacker, whereas everyone on this list, bar one, can be used on defense and be useful. So unfortunately the Hood comes in at 10, but he is tied with Rintrah. So Rintrah, I love Rintrah. I think I loved him when he first came out. I got him early. I was chuffed. The neutralizer suit stupidly strong, just every hit against a Cosmic Champ. As a defender, just going unstoppable when he's on however many, I think it's 10 or 20 of his charges. I like the idea that you root them in the corner, you hit them as many times as possible in the block or what, throw your SB2, and however many ruptures you've got is how big the SB2 is. I think that's a very good, I don't mind it, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a fun play style. It's easy for a lot of people, and he's quite an easy champion to use. You go into a fight, you want someone to stop buffs, who's the easiest champion? It's for new players, it's somebody where if you hit them, they will not get those buffs because of, it's a hit on every neutralize. He's easier to use than Tigra because he doesn't have the heavy, you're not constantly having to heavy for the ruptures. And as a defender, he is stupidly strong. I do think that potentially, people have fallen out with Rintrah in the past. He's annoying to fight, but when he's on your side, I think he's great, and I do think he could come lower down than 10. I would have had him tied for ninth, but I understand a lot. Some people don't really like him, or some people feel like he doesn't have much use with Tigra and these other champions in the game now, but I think as an attacker, especially against Cosmic Champions, just ridiculously strong, and that can't be denied. Unfortunately, we will probably never see him as a 7-star because he's a stupidly strong defender. He does do big old damage with that SP2 with lots of ruptures. So yeah, chances are we're not going to see him. Let's move into who our number 9 is. At 9, we do have the Destroyer. Just ahead of the Hood and Rintrah, and just below someone who everyone might be surprised that he's even in this list, but we'll get to that in a minute. The Destroyer is very good. The power gain, I think I was watching Karate Mike the other night against in the Crucible, bringing in the Destroyer, and he just threw like SP2, and then he had a bar and a half of power, and then he was SP2 again, like a couple hits later, and you just think, given that the Destroyer's SP2 is huge and it does massive damage, I think just as a massive asset to whoever does use him. Constantly going unstoppable as well is super annoying as the defender. Let's take this 9 off and read his abilities, because there's something I'm forgetting. That's it, he's immune to slow, as well as armor break, poison, and bleed. So you can't get rid of his unstoppable. You can't be immortal or indestructible against him. He's always unstoppable while dashing forwards. So that's, like I said, ridiculously annoying, because you can hardly hit him unless you've got, say, like Grit or Valkyrie is against him. When you've got those destruction charges, the degen that he puts on from the SP2, the red damage that he has is truly ridiculous. I wish I had Destroyer. I think he's a very fun champion. I remember when I first come back to the game, bit story time. When I first come back to the game, Destroyer had come out in that time where I hadn't been playing, and people had talked about the other champions. I think Kushala had come out, and Chilf had come out, and a few of the other champions, the newer champions, Onslaught especially, but no one ever spoke about the Destroyer. And then now I've seen him, I think, Christ, I can't believe it was so silent. Very, very good champion. Do wish I had him as both a defender and as an attack. He's very, very strong. So I do like him a lot. But yeah, wish I could get him for myself and rank him up. So Destroyer comes in as the number 9. Let's move into the number 8. So now at 8, we've got Kindred. Yes, I know many people might not think, the Destroyer is definitely better than Kindred, and Hood and Rintrah are definitely better than Kindred. But not on defense, they're not. Kindred is solely made, he was solely built to be a defender, a stupidly annoying defender. You constantly take degen damage, which you can't avoid. Only champs like, Spider-Ham really, and a couple other champs are able to truly avoid it. If you've got lots of buffs, the atrophy just takes them down immediately. And then basically going rooted, and I guess you could sort of call it a form of immortality later on in the fight, is also super strong. But the one thing I think people do underrate about him, everyone knows he's a good defender, but on attack, he's really not that bad. I use him in some of the event quests. I know that they're a bit different because they've got you get lots of furies for different things, and he's a champion who regens, so that's another thing on his kit, but also that helps him get those furies in event quests. But the damage you can do in there very, very quickly is, it's quite surprising that not more people think Kindred is a great champion. I think, he's never going to be as good an attacker as he is defender, and he's not as good an attacker as anyone on this list. He is by far the worst attacker, but he's still strong enough to hold his own. You can bring him in if he's all you've got, and I think he does a perfectly good job. So Kindred comes in at 8. I'm quite happy with that. Let me know in the comments down below if you just massively disagree. But unfortunately, I like Kindred. He's in one of my first Mystic 7 stars, so he got ranked up. I used him a bit, and he was good fun. So yeah, Kindred's in at 8. Let's jump down to the number 7. At 7, we've got the dog, Werewolf by Night. He's just awesome, isn't it? It's a werewolf. It's a werewolf in a fighting game. I think that's really cool. We don't actually have many champions like that, like where they're actually an animal. You've got Tigra, who's sort of a tiger, but not really. But Werewolf is literally a werewolf. I think that's really cool. Anyway, on to what he's actually good at. Defender, strong enough. Relatively good defender. Not amazing, he's not hitting some of the levels that some of these other champions are. But the ruptures that he's putting on, he can regen. He has got a nice power gain, which, if timed with the howl, you can boost that, quite a lot. And I do think, everyone really knows how good Werewolf is. I'd like to use him a lot. I haven't got him yet, but it's somebody is probably one of the 7 stars I really, really want the most, just because I've not had time to play with him. I know he's very good. He's good at specific things. Having Unstoppable, Unblockable, again, is always nice. A few immunities that can come in handy. But yeah, I just want to give him a go. So Werewolf does come in at 7. Not too much to say about him, because I know a lot of people know how great he is, but also I've not had a chance to use him. So I don't want to talk too much and then potentially say something that's wrong. So Werewolf comes in at 7. At 6 is Tigra. I mean, if she wasn't so hard to use, she'd be number 1. But you've got to get the spacing right on those heavies to build up the ruptures. And with the more and more champions there are in the game, the more they are now used as defender. You go into sort of one of the quests, and there's lots of different defenders. You might not have played them. You've got to really have a good understanding of the game to be able to use Tigra super effectively. Like Fintech was pretty much the Tigra god for a long time. She's also not going to come as a 7-star, because that, people will, if she comes as a 7-star, people will learn to play her because the damage that she does is so high. In the science video, I said that the skill of Spot is really, to use Spot, you have to know a lot, but the damage that it gives you back is sort of not proportional. With Tigra, it truly is. If you have Tigra and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with a 7, if you had a 7-star Tigra, she'd be the best champion in the game. If everyone knew how to play her, if she was easy to use. However, she isn't, so that damage is a little bit harder to get, which I think is perfectly fine. I think we've just seen Enchantress come out, and she's very much the same. You've got a champion there who is going to be very difficult to use, but if she has that difficulty of use and is doing the damage that, America Chavez does, but more, then fair enough. You don't mind putting in the work. But if it is like, say, a Spot, or even, pick someone else on this list, Destroyer, Werewolf by Night, even Juggernaut, the damage they do is good because they're easy to use and it's repeatable. With Tigra, it's repeatable, but it's not easy to use. So the damage, therefore, it has to be a way off for the average player. For those top tier players, the content creators, you can afford to spend 5-6 hours learning a champion, using her every day, because you don't have to go to work and you don't have to do, you do have to go to work, obviously. I'm not playing that down, and it is hard work. But what I mean is when the game, you are able to afford so much time onto the game, you can learn her and she does do massive damage. Whereas, because this is list, I try and get to everyone, it's for somebody who might have just picked up the game. It's rank up advice, all of that stuff. Tigra is a great champ if you learn her, but it will take a long time to learn her, and you have to be a very good champion to a very good player to use her. So it's why she comes in at 6 rather than a little bit higher up. I do think she's amazing. I have loved her. I used her a lot as a 5-star. I do think she's a great champ. She just is very, very difficult to use. So Tigra's at 6. In at 5, we have got the Juggernaut. Not too much to say about the Juggernaut, really. Got a buff, was amazing. Really, you just build up his Unstoppables to 10, throw your SP2, and then you see big red and yellow numbers, 30, 40k, up to 100k per SP2. The damage you're doing is truly ridiculous. He is useless on defense, completely useless. Unless he hits you a couple times and builds up those Unstoppables, then you'll find yourself taking a bit of damage. But again, he's not super complex. The good thing about Juggernaut, why he's in at 5 over, say, a Tigra, is because he's just so easy to use. Hit your opponent, you'll build up the Unstoppables. Don't dash back very often. Don't hold block for very long, and you'll be all right. Just play super aggressive, and he'll do an absolute ton of damage. I like Juggernaut. I've ranked him up. I might take him to rank 2. Of my 7 stars, him or Kindred. The only thing I don't like is his prestige. When I go back here and I look at, 15k, it just makes me feel like he's rubbish. But actually, he's a very, very good champion. So that's really all to say there is to say about Juggernaut. Great champ, big damage, huge Unstoppables. Not useful if you're fighting against somebody with slow, but that's very, you're not seeing that too often. You wouldn't take him into a fight against a science champion anyway because of class disadvantage. So in at number 5 is Juggernaut. We may as well just move straight on to number 4, which is Kushala. Terrible number 4 there, isn't it? There we go. Kushala comes in at 4. When I first got her, I was a little bit intimidated because there's a lot going on the screen, isn't there? All those buffs, how you get them, how you refresh them. But actually, the more you use her, she truly is an amazing champ. Lots of light attacks to build up the ignition buffs. You can either throw your SP1 for to put equal amount of incinerates on while building up your I think they spells. I can't think what they're called, but the more spells you have, the more chance that the amount of incinerates matches the amount of ignitions. If they've got a lot of buffs like a Hulkling, just soul barb them, and their damage will fly down. I recently awakened her, which I was so happy about, so I took her to rank 2 straight away. Her SP3 doing degen is very nice because obviously the immunity to degen is quite scarce, or it's sparse. It's one of those 2 words. I think she's a very fun champion, really. She seems like she's tricky, but the more you play her, for the fights that she's coming up against, she can block unblockable hits, not even just special attacks, just hits. If you've parried once in the fight, you can gain a lot more power a lot quicker with her heavy attack spell, and if you're constantly intercepting, I can't remember what the intercept and the heavy attacks called, but there's a lot of benefits to building up those spells. So Kushala comes in at 4. Very, very good champion. Very glad to use her, and I know Vega, if he's watching, will love this. Potentially, to be fair, Vega, I would have a... I don't really know if she can go higher up, but just because the champions above her are so great. But I do really, really love her, especially now, I've got her and I've managed to use her. So she comes in at number 4. At 3... is Absorbing Man, mainly because he's not a 7-star. If he was a 7-star, he'd be the best Mystic, probably, depending on if Doctor Doom was a 7-star or not. Both of his forms are super strong. You get immunities in either one. The regen, I remember when his regen had to get tuned down because it was so strong. I really like Absorbing Man. I've not been able to use him because, as you can see on screen, I've not even got him as a 6-star. I've tried. I just haven't got him yet. I'd like to give it a go, but again, I haven't got him. The buff duration reduction, he was sort of one of the first champions to have that, where instead of just staggering or fate sealing or whatever, you just reduced how long their buff is on for. Very similar to sort of what Destroyer and Kindred do now with Atrophy. Very, very strong champion. A lot of big damage. I remember when he first came out, he was probably one of the best champions in the game. The problem is, as with all these 6-star exclusive champs, 7-stars come out. More people use the 7-stars. They realise that there are champions in the game who, as a 7-star, will do more damage than your 6-star. Even though the 6-star may be a better built champion, like Absorbing Man is. Which is what you sort of have with America Chavez, where she's very strong, does a lot of damage. But if they were both 6-stars, would they be, who would you use? You'd probably use Absorbing Man, although America Chavez would still be absolutely great. So the forms are very nice. Will we see Absorbing Man as a 7-star? I think we probably will. It will be a bit later on, I imagine, when we sort of see Human Torch. Those two champions will probably come together, both very strong in their own right, different aspects to them, but still someone who, who potentially will really alter the power curve of the game. So Absorbing Man comes in at 3 as a 6-star exclusive. Again, it's a shame that he's not a 7-star, but I'm kind of glad that he's not, because I hate fighting against him and I've not had a chance to use him. So yeah, Absorbing Man in at 3. So I've done it. I've put Doom at 2. I've got a list next to me that I'm copying off, and Chavez is at 2 and Doom is at 1. And I've just quickly swapped them around because I can't decide, really. Mine's rank 4, and it does a ton of damage, Doom. The Doom cycle is super powerful. The problem with Doom is, in Battlegrounds, he just isn't doing the damage that America Chavez does in Battlegrounds. And in medium fights, America Chavez is doing the damage that Doom does. Okay, she doesn't have Stagger, and she doesn't have the Doom cycle, which is by far one of the most powerful things in the game. She obviously doesn't have all of that. However, Doom is 6-star exclusive and Chavez isn't. So Chavez has the ability, and you're not limiting your resources because she's an investment for the future, whereas Doom, we're not going to see him as a 7-star really, so if I rank him up to rank 5, he'll be that forever. Not really a waste, but as 7-stars can be rank 4 and rank 5, Doom will fall out of who I use, and that would be a shame. I mean, I'm saying all this, but he's still number 2. Still by far one of the best champions in the entire game. So yeah, Doom comes in at 2 with the Doom cycle, but it is Chavez at 1, who will now move to. So Chavez comes in as the number 1 champion in the Mystic class. The damage that America does is huge. Obviously, a lot of people would have seen it in a lot of Vega's videos, because obviously, as everyone knows, he loves her a lot. Yeah, she's just a very strong champion. You get all of the different sort of zones or dimensions leveled up. You are basically throwing special attacks at about 50% cost. Your special 2 is just doing so much damage, and the reverberation on Dark Dimension or Utopian Parallel, I can't remember which one it is, I think it's Dark Dimension. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So you're hardly, you're still damaging them when they're damaging you, which is ridiculous. Very hard to stop America Chavez. The unblockable special 2 is such a pain if she's down as a defender, which does mean she has that little bit of defender strength. I do think that as an attacker in Battlegrounds and sort of medium fights, she is very strong. She can be used in the long fights, which is where she, the Battlegrounds is where she comes over Dr. Doom. So there isn't really too much to say about her other than she is an amazing champion. You learn her, you understand all the different things that she can do, and you end up, I definitely did quite surprised. Didn't know that she was sat there as a 6-star. She did get the little buff to the damage she was doing, but still a very, very good champion. So Chavez comes in at 1. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit of a long one. Leave a like and comment down below who you've disagreed with in the list, who you may think is too high or too low, and I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.